Hello and welcome to the Reapers. Today we're in our Mig-29 and we're looking at the cockpit instruments. First of all, to point out, there are three variations of the MiG we can drive: the A model, the G model and the S model. Now their cockpits are identical or similar enough that we can just wrap it up with this one video on the A model and not lose any major functionality. Next thing to mention is that these are low fidelity models. In DCS you get low and high fidelity models, so the high fidelity will be the more expensive ones that you can buy that have every single switch modelled and you can move around and click every switch and every system is modelled. This is a low fidelity model, so only about kind of 20-30% of the instruments are interactive per se. You still can't click on them, but you can interact with them in one way or another. And they're designed like that to make them easy. They're kind of the first kind of modules you get into before you start the high fidelity. Right, so let's crack right into it. So what we're going to do is going to ignore everything that's non-interactive and go through everything that is interactive, okay? So let's start at the bottom left. We've got our gear handle here. So it's currently in the up position, showing that the gear are up. If we press the G key, it will go to the down position and showing that the gear would be down. Next is our configuration indicator. So we've got our air brakes. If our air brakes were out, this lamp and this lamp would be illuminated. If this one and this one are illuminated, then that is the FOD gates at the front of the engine intakes. We can't see them here because they're folded away, but they come down when the plane is on the ground to protect it from foreign damage. Then we've got the flaps under the wings here that will be illuminated if they were extended. We've got the landing gear. If the landing gear were down, these lights here would be illuminated. And this one center here is a bit controversial, but it appears to be when the hydraulic is in, when the gear basically are in play, being moved up or down, the hydraulics are being used, this light will be on. Next, we've got the Barometric Altimeter. So this big hand going around the outside of the clock is in 100s of meters, so 100, 200, 300, and up to 900 meters, or 1,000 meters. And the inside clock is 1,000s of meters, so 5,000, 10,000, 25,000 meters barometric altitude. QFE here. Next is the indicated airspeed meter, so the speedometer basically. Indicated airspeed in 100s of kilometers an hour, 100, 200, 300, 400, up to 900 kilometers an hour. Next, we're going to jump up. We've got the master caution light on, so that, you know, if something goes wrong, you've got your master caution light will come on. Next, we've got a combined gauge. We've got angle of attack shown on the left here. We're currently about 3.5. And we've got our accelerometer here, so we can pull basically up to 9 Gs there, and after the 9 Gs it gets into the red, where it becomes dangerous, obviously. Next is the HUD. This is used for displaying all sorts of information to the pilot. Now we've got a separate video that goes through the HUD, so we're not going to go through that now. We're just going to show that we can have put the HUD in several different modes. One would be basic navigation, 2 BVR, combat, 3 close ranged vertical scan mode, 4 bore sight scan mode, close range, 5 helmet mounted display scan mode, 6 longitudinal aiming mode, and 7 air to ground mode, and 8 classic Russian bomb mode. Next, we've got our ADI, or our artificial horizon. This tells us several things. It tells us mainly our attitude, so whether our wings are rolled right or rolled left, whether our nose pitched up, pitched down. It tells us our roll here, and it tells us our pitch angles here. It also gives us navigational information. There is a line here called the localizer, a kind of a vertical line. This will give us azimuth information. There is also a horizontal line, not visible at the moment, known as the glide slope, and that will give us elevation indication. Now I'm not going to go any further into that because I cover it in the navigation tutorial that we've done for that. Next, we've got the HSI. This is for our navigation. So we've got here kilometers, the distance to our next selected waypoint or point of interest. Here is our currently selected course. We've got the compass rose around the outside. This is where we're heading in this arrow here. Our green marker there, our green arrow there, is pointing towards our selected point of interest, whether that's a waypoint or a base or whatever it is. Our course line is the double white-sided line there. Our course deviation line is, I don't believe it's visible at the moment. And we've got our ILS lines here. We've got our glide slope line there and our localizer again there. Again, we cover it properly in the navigation tutorial, so that's where More information is next. We've got a vertical speed gauge. So if the needle is above the 0, then that's how fast we are going upwards, and if it's below the needle, that's how fast we are going downwards. And we've also got a slip gauge there, a yaw slip gauge there. Next, a Mach meter. So it's telling us the various Mach that we're doing, and it shows all the way up to Mach 2.8 or 2.9, which is a bit ambitious, but that's that. So I'm going to look behind the stick here. We've got our chronometer there. The only function in this aircraft is to use it as a clock. I don't believe it has stopwatch facilities and whatnot. Next, we've got our voltmeter here, showing that we're reading just under 3 master 3 volts. We've got non-functional and functional. These, I believe, is functional. This is our pressure of, I believe, our left and right wheel brakes. Next, something I've never really looked at, but something to be aware of, your oxygen supply here. Now, I can never remember which way around it is, but I think that is the amount we've got, so in percent. And I believe this is either the flow or the pressure. It's got a P there, so I'm going to assume pressure, but it's not covered in the manual, so I can't say any more than that. Pressure gauges for hydraulic systems. You've got 4 hydraulic needles showing 4 hydraulic systems. Again, it's not covered in the manual, so I can't go into any further than that. This gauge here shows the intake ramps. So there are intake ramps inside our intakes. You can't really see them. You'll have to take my word for it. I think they drop down from the top down to the bottom. They precondition the air for supersonic flight. It's a typical thing that breaks down on a fast jet. And here is the indicator in percent of the ramp position. Going kind of a funny direction here. Maybe I should skip back a bit. Flare counter. How many flares we have available? Our radio altimeter. From 20 meters all the way up to 1,000 meters radio altimeter. And warning lamp here in case we breach our minimum set altitude, which currently is set by that triangle at whatever that says, 300 meters, I think that is. Tach for the engines. For the core engines, the speed times 10 in percent, so they're at both about 78% at the moment, and there are 2 needles, 1 for each engine. EGT, the core temperature of the engines in 1000 degrees, times 100 degrees centigrade, left engine, right engine. They're pretty cool at the moment. Fuel gauge. So we've got a kind of a gauge that goes upwards from 0 upwards all the way to 7. We're currently at 4,500 kilograms. If we had extra fuel tanks, then it would go up all the way to 7 or nearabouts. These here reflect the different tanks that are in the aircraft. You've got central tank, wing tank, aft tank. I'm not sure exactly what they are because I don't speak Russian, but when a certain tank is empty, you will get a light on in the corresponding light. The bingo fuel line is the red line there, so when you get down below bingo, you'll get your bingo warning. Here is your current flight time, so at the current settings, with everything as it is, you can fly this amount of kilometers. Next, we've got, I don't know the name of this chap, but it is the built-in test display, so when tests are run, the results are displayed on this screen. I think that works in this module passively. Next, your RWR, your radar warning receiver. This displays to you possible radar threats that are around your aircraft. I've got a full video on this in the relevant playlist if you want to go check that out for more information. Here is your main indicator and warning light panel. All kinds of indicators if your air brake is on, if your afterburners are on, etc. The relevant light will glow. I'm not going to go through them because I don't know them, but ones of interest are that one and that one. If they're shining, then your afterburners are on. And that one, and that one, if they're shining green, then the various trim axes, roll, pitch, and yaw, are in the neutral position, I believe. So these two, whatever they are, don't speak Russian, are in the neutral position. Okay, your HDD here, your heads down display, similar to the HUD here, except heads down. I don't really understand the function of having 2 HUDs. Maybe it's a redundancy, I'm not really sure. Just realised that we've missed our autopilot. So this panel here is our autopilot lights. They show what type or what element of the autopilot we've got selected at the moment. You can't actually press them, but you can use them. If you want to know more about that, we've got an autopilot video in the relevant playlist. At the top here, we have a magnetic. Okay, so I think we've covered everything that's interactive. There's loads of controls down here, but nothing's actually clickable or pressable. This thrust lever does move forwards and backwards when you move your thrust lever backwards and forwards. Same down here, all looks very pretty, but I don't think anything is actually clickable or interactive down here. Right, I hope that helps, and I'll see you